So now we're going to check out a video from Matt Walsh. It's titled, "It's Now Legal to Be Fatphobic." Let's get into it.
Today with a topic that's not quite as heavy as some of the topics we've covered recently, but still one that is heavy in a different sense of the word. Without a lot of fanfare, a movement has been underway in this country for some time to outlaw the idea of being fatphobic, which of course literally means fear of fat people. Now, of course, like most of the other new phobias that have been discovered in the past 15 minutes or so, fatphobia is a misnomer. It doesn't exist. I mean, no one's really afraid of fat people, just like no one's afraid of people who call themselves transgender. People are afraid of being fat, however, which makes sense. A fear of obesity is really just a fear of heart disease and early death, which are both things that a normal person is afraid of, or at least interested in avoiding. But
that's one of the things that get me with today. They just make up words and just say things and make them mean whatever they want them to mean. That's not how a society is built. It's built on communication. If you and 30 of your friends just make up a word and nobody else know what it means, that means you're not assimilating to society. And whatever consequences come with that you get, that's on you.
Still not a fear of other people who are fat. Now, it's true that many Americans have, let's say, an aesthetic aversion to morbid obesity, but that's also understandable. For lots of deeply ingrained biological reasons, humans have come to value traits like physical fitness. We also tend to prefer that women look like women and men look like men, because that's how the species propagates itself. This is human nature. The only way to outlaw it is to outlaw humanity. And increasingly, it looks like that is indeed the goal. Earlier this year in New York City, fat activists successfully campaigned to enact a law that makes it illegal to discriminate against people on the basis of their weight. And what this means in practice is that every employer that fires a fat person in the city of New York can now look forward to an investigation from the city's Commission on Human Rights, because it might be a human rights violation to fire someone who happens to be fat. Watch.
Another fight for equality across the board. New York City taking steps to ban discrimination based on someone's weight or height. Eyewitness News reporter Darla Miles has the story.
I prefer fat. I think that using that, it
she feels the
takes
whole
away
screen.
any of the negative connotation.
Embracing the word fat. That's what Victoria Abraham does on her social media accounts, using the handle FatFabFeminist. The 22-year-old has the attention of more than 120,000 followers.
In most places in the United States, you can get fired for being fat and have no protection at all, which is crazy because this is a very fat country.
The passage of the bill Thursday means New York now joins 4 other cities with weight discrimination laws on the books, and Michigan and Washington State.
Are there gaps in this bill? For sure. But I think this is...
I would admit that I wouldn't necessarily say discrimination for firing someone to be a fat. And I'm not going to do these soft words like overweight and big boned. And first of all, big bone, there's no such thing, because there's no human actual bones are bigger than anybody else's unless they have some type of disease. So I'll digress and back to what I was saying. It's probably wrong to fire someone that is fat, but what if the job requires the person to sit down in a seat that's meant for up to, I don't know, 400 pounds and they weigh 450, they breaking seats? And I've actually heard of something like that. I actually have heard of something like that. Not necessarily that the person got fired to where this person was breaking seats because they were fat. Just stuff like that. If you think about business, especially in the United States, a capitalist society, every dollar counts. Every penny counts. And you see places like Walmart, the biggest retailer in the world, when they announce their earnings, a win is a 2% growth year over year. Do you understand what 2% is in a multi-billion-dollar company? That means that, to give an example, that means that they made it could be the difference between they made all of their stores cut 10 hours per person. to make sure that they're still profitable. Can you imagine you have fat folks just breaking chairs and, you know, breaking tables and all this type of stuff? That's going to cost the company hundreds of millions of dollars. Get rid of them.
This is a perfect first step.
So there are still gaps in the bill, remarks the fat activist. And if there's one thing that fat activists want to ensure, it's that there are no gaps anywhere. They want to fill that space. They want to fill every space. And they're going to expand their ranks until they've accomplished that objective. They certainly don't want anyone to lose weight. They don't want to reduce the number of people who die due to obesity in this country, which is one.
Yeah, let's not do that. Let's not lose weight. Let's not do that.
1 in 6 by some estimates. That would make too much sense. The last thing they want is to encourage Americans to become less obese. Instead, as you just heard, they want to reorder all of society so that we can accommodate the morbidly obese. And to that end, the New York legislation bans discrimination on height and weight in the areas of housing, the workplace, and public accommodation. Now, the only real exception is for jobs where, in the eyes of New York City politicians, it is, quote, essential for people to be physically fit. Now, what does that mean exactly?
What does it mean?
And how often have people actually been fired for being obese in New York? Well, those are good starter questions when you're talking about passing a sweeping new law like this, which has ramifications for every business in the city, and yet no one has any answer to either of them. What little data we do have doesn't seem very credible. For example, there's one study on fatphobia that was cited by the Washington Post recently, and using data from 1979, the paper concludes that, quote, a woman's hourly pay can drop by almost 2% for every 1 unit increase in BMI. You know, it's a standard story. We've all heard it. A woman gets...
No. Well, that's probably true, but what jobs does this fat woman choose? Compared to larger society, chances are the job that she chooses is probably a lower paying job. And that's what that is about.
It's called into the boss's office and told that she's getting a pay cut because she's too fat. Happens all the time, right?
No,
except for the fact that it never happens at all.
Exactly.
And if it did, by the way, like if your pay dropped by that amount for every 1 unit increase in BMI, well, lots of people in this country would be getting paid like negative $50,000 a year at this point. They would be getting charged money to go to work if that's actually how it worked. The whole premise is absurd, and yet, as the Daily Mail reports this week, these laws against fatphobia are becoming increasingly common. Even Colorado, which is the thinnest state in the entire country, the one that is presumably the least fatphobic, is now about to pass a law outlawing discrimination on the basis of weight. And that would be the first time a law like this has been passed statewide in decades. Michigan apparently passed a law banning discrimination based on weight around 50 years ago, followed by Washington State. But now it's becoming trendy. And so Vermont, Massachusetts, New Jersey are all looking to do the same, along with a bunch of other cities as well. They're looking to pass their own ordinances. But Colorado is unique because it's a state that, even accepting these fat activist standards, would seem to...
There's no discrimination based on weight. What they're meaning is they're getting mad at the airlines for not making larger seats, or they're getting mad at the airlines for charging them for taking up more than one seat, which in turn makes the airline lose money. Just some of the examples.
To need these protections the least. Their obesity rate is just 25%, which is sadly quite low by U.S. standards. This Christmas season, don't let the government be the Grinch of your savings. Right now, you can diversify your savings. Sheltered IRA in their Business Bureau. Thousands of happy customers. Now is the 40 Days for Life holds peaceful vision. Tax-deductible gift.
All right, Matt Walsh, hurry up.
The weight limit for an apartment building. And second, what kind of accommodations are workplaces supposed to make for the obese? Well, it's hard to get a straight answer to either of these questions, but if you look around on social media, you will find some more specific proposals. You might have seen this TikTok video that was everywhere a few weeks ago. We played it on the show. It features Jalen Cheney, who's a self-described travel and lifestyle creator based in Vancouver. And here she is to give you some idea of what these fat activists want and what kind of accommodations they're looking for.
That's what it's about.
Let's watch that again.
I'm on a mission to revolutionize the travel industry and make it a more accessible, accepting, accommodating place for all. The needs of plus-size travelers matter just as much as anybody else. And today I'm going to cover what we are looking for in accessible, size-inclusive hotel amenities. Size-inclusive hotel.
You think she mad? Would you venture to guess, wonder why she's mad?
Amenities are crucial for ensuring that plus-size travelers feel welcomed, accommodated, and comfortable during their stay. We deserve an environment that respects our needs and body diversity.
I'm sorry to keep stopping the video, but why they using all plus size? What the heck is that? I've been hearing it for years. Plus fat. There's no plus size. It's fat. If we call it out for what it is and give it shame, maybe things will change. Fat.
Diversity. These are the exact steps that hotels can take to be more size inclusive and accessible for travelers of all sizes. Number 1 on the list, provide sturdy, wider chairs without armrests in guest rooms, lobbies, and common areas to accommodate different body sizes and types. Number 2 on the list, ensure beds with strong support and a higher weight capacity, along with providing reinforced chairs and wider bathroom facilities. Number 3, make elevators and hallways spacious to allow for easy movement of larger individuals and those utilizing mobility devices. Number 4, install grab bars in showers and near toilets. Offer adjustable handheld shower heads and raised toilet seats for added accessibility.
You can't get up
Number 5,
on their own
train
weight?
staff to be respectful, understanding, and accommodating to travelers of all sizes.
So Cheney is basically demanding that every hotel and restaurant in the United States be razed to the ground and rebuilt with new super wide hallways and wide bathrooms and elevators.
You believe this?
She also wants to make sure make life worse for everyone else, including by removing chairs with armrests in rooms, common areas, etc. Separately, she's also demanded that airlines provide extra free seats to obese people so that they have room to spread out. She said, quote, "As plus-size travelers, my partner and I have unfortunately experienced discrimination and discomfort while flying." Now, she doesn't care about the discomfort that she causes non-obese passengers on the plane. Really, what she's saying is that she doesn't want those people on the plane at all. She wants their seats for free. And she's not alone. The DEI website Feminuity assembled a list of similar demands on behalf of fat activists. And here are just a few of them. Quote, "Communal spaces like dining areas, conference rooms, and relaxation rooms should have furniture like chairs, desks, sofas, and tables that are inclusive of fat people. It's best to avoid stools, tiny benches, or chairs with rigid armrests. Creating a fat inclusive office also means rethinking every inch of the space."
This word inclusive gets on my nerve every time I hear it. Oh, it does. It does.
"Avoid tight corners." Yes, rethink every inch of space. Remodel your entire building for the sake of people who have eaten so much that they can no longer comfortably walk down the hallway or sit in a chair. These are the demands, and they're actually being met. In London a few years ago, the mayor banned ads featuring attractive women in swimsuits from appearing on public transit. One of the ads asked, "Are you beach body ready?"
What?
And that's hate speech in London now, evidently.
Oh,
Tens of thousands of people signed a petition to get the ads removed. They even vandalized it with graffiti. And ultimately, they got what they wanted. In this country, the School of Public Health at the University of Illinois, Chicago recently proposed that the word obesity should be banned entirely. As The Independent reported, the university claims that weight discrimination remains, quote, "one of the only forms of discrimination actively condoned by society," which is obviously not remotely true.
Right.
And the university knows it's not true because they had an affirmative action plan which discriminates against whites and Asians in all aspects of admissions and hiring. I mean, that's one of the most blatant forms of discrimination imaginable. And also one of the worst because it's based on something people can't control. But they condone that. They participated in that. They practiced it. And that's the thing about alleged discrimination against the obese. Now, most of these examples of discrimination are just made up and ridiculous, but even if there was some discrimination that was actually going on, you know, it wouldn't be in the same ballpark as discrimination based on something like race. Because obesity, no matter what anybody says, is a choice.
It is.
It is the result of a deliberate lifestyle. Obesity is a consequence of behavior. If you are 400 pounds and feeling discriminated against, well, you put yourself in that position. And the good news is that you can get yourself out of it.
Yep, you got
a white
control.
man facing affirmative action discrimination can't do anything to be not white. But an obese person can and should, and for his own health must, do something to make himself not obese. You know, obese people have become the next big victim group in America.
Big, huh?
But they are, like so many of the new modern victim groups, victims of their own behavior. And that's why this is such a growing and popular victim group, because, you know, anyone can eat their way into it. Just lie on the couch and gorge yourself on Pringles, and very soon you too will be able to recast any criticism of you as bigotry. You too will be handed a get out of accountability free card. You too can claim that anyone who upsets you or disagrees with you or annoys you is some kind of ist or phobe. And in this way, the fat acceptance movement is no different from any other faux victimhood movement in the country, but it does stand apart to some extent as perhaps the most farcical example of modern society's kind of me first ethos. The whole idea behind the movement is that the world should rearrange itself for the sake of making room for the morbidly obese. And they mean that literally. We need to literally rearrange the furniture so that these people can fit inside the room. So it's really on the nose to the point of absurdity. And of course, the much easier, more cost-effective, fairer, more sane approach is for the morbidly obese to make some simple lifestyle changes so that they can more easily include themselves in these spaces. Like if you walk into a space and you say, I can't be included in the space because I literally can't fit here, then there are things that you can do and changes you can enact immediately.
So you mean to tell me, because you made decisions in your life to be overweight, obese, fat, whatever you want to call it, you want the entire society to acquiesce to you? Are you being selfish? Are you being selfish? Or in your definition, discrimination is make the doorways wider, spend money on reinforced furniture. Hey, how about give me a free plane seat, me and my friend? And so if you look at it objectively, realistically, that's 2 free plane seats. And since America overall, we are a fat nation because we have access to everything and excesses of everything and millions of choices of everything. How much is that going to affect their overall society if we acquiesce to just a small minority? This country is built on, we're going to do what's best for the majority, and we'll deal with the ills of the minorities, at least that it was built up on. That's not the way it is today, because the small minorities seem to have the biggest voices, and they're getting laws passed. And like he was saying, there's been laws passed in states just for what? If we go by the BMI, like more than the average is around 30% of people are overweight. I don't know the details on obese and all this type of stuff, but just say overweight, which means it's not healthy. Your heart is in danger. That's what it means. So we're going to change this entire society for 30% of people instead of making the majority right for everyone. And then we're going to address that smaller percentage. My suggestion would be there should be nutrition training, encourage people to go on a diet instead of encouraging people to be fat by using terms like body shaming I'm not body shaming if I'm telling you you're fat. Are you fat? If the answer is yes, I'm not body shaming. So we'll leave that right there.